Before we did the research for this video, we thought that taking a bike on a train in Germany was easy peasy. However, it turns out to be a little bit more complicated than we expected. In this video, we talk about the things you should be aware of if you're planning to take your bike on a train in Germany. Before this episode starts, we have a small favor to ask from you. Our goal for this year is to reach 50,000 YouTube subscribers. If you've ever liked any of our videos, if you like this channel, then please hit that subscribe button that's down here at the bottom.
The bigger the channel, the bigger the reach, and the more internationals can benefit from our content to settle into life in Germany more smoothly. Thank you very much and enjoy this episode. First, we need to clarify that not all public transportation in Germany is created equal, aka is run by the Deutsche Bahn. Generally speaking, there are two different buckets. The first bucket is the local transportation. In German it's called Nahverkehr, and that includes pretty much all of the transportation in cities and towns, like buses, trams, S-Bahns, U-Bahns, ferries, and that sort. And then there is the Fernverkehr, which is the high-speed trains, long-distance trains that are run by the Deutsche Bahn, like the ICE, IC, and EC. The regional trains, so the RB trains, are operated by the Deutsche Bahn, but are considered as Nahverkehr. So that is a little bit of an in-between. To get more information on how the public transportation system in Germany works, you can watch this video where we go into detail.
Because of what Yvonne just mentioned, that means that there are different rules and regulations not only by state, but by cities in Germany when it comes to public transportation and taking a bike on them. Let's first start with the Nahverkehr, which means the trams, U-Bahns, and everything that Yvonne just mentioned. In theory, you can totally take your bike on the Nahverkehr. In reality, it's a little bit different. This is because the rules for people in Berlin is different to the ones in Düsseldorf, to the ones in Cologne, to the ones in Berlin. So here it's super important that you check which one is your local transportation association and then check their rules of what they say, how you should behave with the bike. Two big questions you should answer is number one, how much does it cost? In some cities, it's free of charge. You can take your bike without any problems. In other cities, you need to buy a ticket. And also in certain cities, the drivers can also deny the access of you approaching or boarding the Nahverkehr. The other question is, what are the rules and regulations during rush hour? In certain cities, there are certain trams and certain things that you cannot take your bike on while it's rush hours just because there's a very big amount of people and adding a bike to it will just complicate things, so it's a big no-no. In other cities, it's totally fine. Here you need to check what your local transportation association says. Don't worry, we won't leave you hanging. In the description in the box below, you will find a link for the Deutsche Bahn, funny enough, where they have listed all the local transportation associations and their specific rules for bikes. Again, you can find that in the description box below.
Wow, I felt like that was just a wall of information. But it is really not that straightforward, and that is just because it is not a universal system, as we've pointed out in other videos on this topic before. Very important to also say yet again is that you may innocently cross the border of different public transportation associations. For example, going from Düsseldorf to Cologne, you're crossing or you're starting and ending in different associations. Hence, there might be different rules and different prices. So it's really important to figure out your route that you want to take. Where does this take you? And check really the rules from all angles.
If you're in doubt, you can always go to the main train station and go to the service points from the Deutsche Bahn or the local transportation association locally, and there you can ask for the rules for taking a bike and they are more than happy to help you. Additional to that, if you use an app to buy your ticket, which I highly recommend, there you can also put the stretch that you're taking, and if you buy the bike ticket through there, it should be able to cover all the crossings and whatever is needed for the ticket to be valid.
It's just what to be aware.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the Fernverkehr, specifically about IC and ICE trains. Here it is very straightforward. You need to have an extra ticket for your bike. And not every train actually allows you to take a bike because they don't have a dedicated area. This already says it. You need to get a ticket for your bike for a dedicated area, typically a bike rack within the train. And there's usually not very many of them. In some trains, only 8. That means, since biking in Germany is quite popular, those tickets get sold out quite fast. We've researched sometimes even 6 months in advance. Like Jen just mentioned, for the local transportation, same applies to the Deutsche Bahn. You can buy your ticket in the app, where you also find out whether the bike is still available or not. I mean, the availability for the bike. The bike ticket. There you go.
Yes, you can also use the website or also the machines at the main train station. But if you do it spontaneously, at least from the research, I've seen that it's not so easy to just buy a ticket for your bike because, again, of the limited availability.
And if you do decide to board a train with your bike without having a specific ticket and without locking it in a specific bike rack, you might be in trouble and get fined for it.
Yes. There is a hack of how you can take your bike without getting an additional bike ticket, which we will talk about it at the end of the video.
Now let's say you have that precious ticket and you want to board the train or the bus or whichever vehicle you choose. You do need to look out for the dedicated entrance, because usually they are a little bit more spacious, and they're often also in buses or trams, for example, the same entrance that is designated for strollers, for example. You can identify those entrances by looking at the vehicle from the outside and looking for a big bike that is really painted onto the vehicle.
Yeah, a bike icon. Additional to that, if you're taking an IC or ICE train, when you purchase your ticket, you also have on that ticket the wagon where the bike storage is, and you need to put your bike there. Another fun fact is that usually these bike storage places, they're not next to your seat. So for example, your bike can be 3 or 4 wagons away from you. What type of bikes are allowed in public transportation in Germany? So you have the traditional, let's call it normal bike, which has 2 wheels and 1 seat. And here the Deutsche Bahn recommends that the tire width should be between 40 to 60 millimeters. If you have a fat bike with bigger tires, they also recommend to take some of that air out so it fits in the bike rack where you need to park your bike.
Very specific.
Yes, of course.
E-bikes with a motor that allows you to ride up to 25 kilometers per hour are also allowed. Actually, the official term for those are pedelecs. Tandems, recumbent, and tricycle bikes are not really allowed in all trains, only in those with a larger capacity. And here it is advisable to really check with the Deutsche Bahn beforehand whether those types could be accommodated.
If you have a bike trailer, you can take it on the train as long as it's a foldable bike trailer, because then it's not considered part of the bike, it's considered luggage.
Now to the hack on how to avoid having to buy an extra bike ticket when boarding a public transportation in Germany. You do not need an extra ticket, and your bike is not considered a bike but a luggage if it is a folding bike and you can fold them together.
Yes, the cool thing here is because it's a luggage, you don't need to put it in the specific bike area, but you can take it with you in your seat or behind 2 seats if it's possible, or with the big luggages can be stored on the train. If you have a children's bike with a diameter up to 16 inches, that is also considered luggage, so you don't need to get an extra ticket for that one.
And if you have a regular bike but you cannot fold it and you'd like to take it, you can package it as if you'd be taking it on a plane, meaning either an official real bike luggage like the triathletes have, or you can really just take also a big cardboard box that wraps around your bike, and also then it's considered luggage.
Now here the kind of caveat is that in order for the bike to fit in such luggages is that usually you need to take off both wheels.
One wheel.
Or one wheel, depends on the size, and move the handlebar, so twist it. So that means when you need to use it, you need to kind of rebuild it. Here are 4 tips for you to take your bike in public transportation in Germany more smoothly. Tip number 1 is to plan enough time. Now you will need to probably look for elevators because you won't be able to take your bike on the electrical stairs, and depending on how many stairs there is, you might need to carry it, and depending on the bike, it might be too heavy.
Depends on the bike, yeah.
Depends on the bike. Generally speaking, elevators are needed, and because of this, elevators are not always so obvious. So you kind of need to navigate yourself through the train station. So plan enough time, 30 minutes before your train leaves might be good enough for you to be able to be at the platform at the right time.
Tip number 2, priority for onboarding a train. Please be aware that strollers and wheelchairs do have priority to board and also take up the extra space before you with your bike. So in case you would like to board a bus, but there's already 2 strollers in there, that's the case when, for example, the bus driver could deny you the access.
Tip number 3 is to take along enough lock. If you're taking an intercity and you will need to lock your bike at the bike rack because you're not sitting next to it, and to prevent theft, you should take a long enough lock to be able to lock your front wheel by the rack. So if you have...
And additionally your frame, because often the front wheel can be taken out easily.
Yeah, so then even a longer lock. So please just consider that if you're actually boarding one of these trains.
And tip number 4 is to know the cycling rules in Germany. Yes, cyclists also need to abide by certain rules when navigating the roads of Germany. If you'd like to know more about them, then make sure to also watch the video here on the left about the cycling rules in Germany. Until next time,
Choose!
pretty much the...
Hold on. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, it really itches. I'm so sorry, I couldn't hold it. Ferries. Sorry. Because...
Wow.